What's it like to trade crypto on Kraken? Let's say I'm in a state-of-the-art gym surrounded by powerful-looking machines. Do I head straight for the squat rack? I could, but this gym has options like trainers, fitness pros, spotters to back me up. That's crypto on Kraken. Powerful crypto tools backed by 24/7 support and multi-layered security. Go to Kraken.com and see what crypto can be. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to U.S. and U.S. territory customers by Payward Interactive Inc., PWI, DBA Kraken. View PWI's disclosures at kraken.com/legal/disclosures.
This is the way.
We wanted men.
I have spoken.
Welcome to episode 11 of the Smugglers Galaxy podcast. Joining me, broadcasting live from the privy of the Razor Crest, is Jason Wasoko. Jason, how you doing, man?
Good, and it's a refresher up until this past episode of the Mandalorian. I don't know why they changed things, but yeah, I'm in the privy, the refresher, whatever you want to call it.
How's your week going, man?
Good. Did you know they changed, like, it used to be called the refresher?
Yeah, I thought it was kind of funny when they called it the privy. My wife looked at me and was like, what's a privy? And I said, you've never been to Ren Fair?
But in all the expanded novels, it was refresher. I don't know. It's funny. I'm doing great. How are you?
I am good, but yeah. And then even at Galaxy's Edge, it's called the Refresher. I'm doing good, man. Had a pretty good week. I've been playing Squadrons. I'm still trying to get good at it. I don't know why I bought that game because I suck at flying games, but it forces you to learn. Because before you even try going into doing any of the online stuff, it warns you. It's like, please play the epilogue and play through the missions before you even try online. And it helps you out, try to learn how to fly. And I still suck at it, but I'm getting a little bit better.
Yeah, that's my least favorite part of Battlefront 2 is the flying part, just because you don't know where the horizon is, and I just get so dizzy and backwards, and I'm just not good with that.
Once I bought it, I was sort of like, why the hell did I buy this game? It's still a fun game to do. And I'm at the point now where they keep talking about General Syndulla. So I'm like, I know she's in the game, but I keep waiting to see her because I've had a really cool experience with a Hera figure that I'm going to save till I get it. I don't want to jinx it till that figure gets here. Yeah. It's going to be a cool story when it gets here, but
that's incredible. That's if it's what I think it is, it's been a long time in the making.
Yes, it is. It is. So I'll have an incredible. I don't want to jinx it till I get it in my hands, but hopefully I'll have it by the time we record next week. Right. Since we're talking about just pickups and crap this week, I went to it's called Copper Hill, Tennessee. It's sort of on the border. It's kind of funny because it's on the border of Georgia and Tennessee, so they've got a border running through the town.
Oh yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, it's a cool little town. There's a couple of breweries. My in-laws have a house up in Helen, and so we'll go up there and we'll day trip to breweries and drink and then come home and hit antique malls and stuff and oddity shops and while we're up there try to find some stuff. And I was at one and I looked up on the wall and there's like a folk art Yoda painting of like a 16 by 20 or something. And, it was $20. And I'm like, I'm not going to let that Yoda sit there for $20 because it was done very well. And then when you turn it over, it says Nessie, Yoda, one for me, YODA, love Tiffany. And then it's dated 8/00, so 8 of 2000. And, I'm like, who are these people? And are they still together? I guess they're not if the art is sitting in a, But, it's just a cool little piece, and I love finding the folk art stuff and the ceramic stuff and stuff with meaning to it and stuff where people wrote, happy Merry Christmas, happy birthday, and signed it and, and dated it and stuff. So it's just a cool piece.
Yeah, definitely. I guess Tiffany got the Yoda painting in the divorce and then decided she didn't want it anymore.
Probably. That's what I'm going to assume. I'll make up some kind of weird story to go with it.
But it's always cool to get those unique one-of-a-kind pieces.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's
Yeah.
a cool piece. I'm gonna I'll post it up tomorrow or the next day so people can see it.
Cool. My week was kind of quiet this week, which is good because I've been picking up a lot lately. The only thing I really got was the Mandalorian ornament and then the child ornament from Hallmark. They have a lot of good ornaments this year at Hallmark, but those are the only two I got. And the child was, I think, the second to last one in the store, so I'm glad I got that early.
Yeah, that's a cool ornament. That ornament is freaking huge compared to the other Hallmark ornaments.
Yeah, it's not to scale, which is the weird thing about those ornaments is you'll get a BB-8 the same size as Darth Vader. It's just weird on a tree.
I collect those, and there was a store near me that was going out of business, and I walked in there because I knew they always sell their display cases, and they were selling like a little spinny rack.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably 4 or 5 feet tall, but it's like a foot square, and it's a little spinny rack, and I put all my ornaments on there so they can stay up all year round because the wife was getting aggravated with me stealing the Christmas tree every year, and I was getting aggravated with not being able to display them year round because you spend a lot of freaking money on those things.
Yeah, I bought a tree for my ornaments last year, and I'm gonna have to put it in a place because where I had it last year was kind of obscure from where I sit and watch TV. So I'm gonna move that around this year so I can see it. But yeah, you definitely need your own tree for all the Hallmark ornaments we've collected over the years.
I always tell my wife, when those come out, it's like a $200-300 bill every year on the ornaments, and I kind of pick through them, and you've kind of learned which ones are going to be popular and which ones aren't by what's sitting on the shelf. So I like gambling. I'll gamble, and at least the ones up here, they'll do a 50% off sale on the 26th, so you can go pick them up for dirt cheap.
Yeah, I usually get one a year. I missed out on the speeder bike with the Biker Scout. That one I regret not getting, but I try to get one a year. This year, because it's the Mandalorian and the child, I decided to get 2. And we'll see what I can get, like you said, on the 26th after everything goes on clearance.
Yeah, have you seen the ones they finished them off last year, but they were all the ships from A New Hope, and when you hit one of them, they all interact with each other and basically play through A New Hope. It's annoying. The first couple of times you're like, yeah, that's awesome. It gets annoying because it takes about 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes to go through it all. But the ships will talk, and it's got real dialogue from the movies. So those are cool. But they did it over the last couple of years, and they just did a Harry Potter run of those. So now everybody's done with Star Wars. They got to do Harry Potter if they are into those.
I haven't seen those. Maybe I'll Google that after this and check that out.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I've got them. They came out with a wreath that's all lit up and stuff, and they're sitting on my wall.
That's awesome. I'll have to check that out next time I'm over there.
Yeah, actually, you just Google it because they don't sell them anymore. They finished it off last year and got rid of them all. But they go along with the Death Star tree topper. It kind of goes along with all that stuff.
Pretty cool.
Yeah,
that I do know, and that I wanted, but I didn't get that.
Yeah, I should. I had the opportunity to buy one for it was like $50-$60, and I just couldn't pull the trigger on it. And what really stunk is my wife's there poking me, telling me to buy it, and I didn't pull the trigger because I didn't know what, I was just like, and yeah, I regret not doing it. Mando Mondays, what have they released this week?
Yeah, so they released the Mandalorian Black Series helmet, the full-scale helmet, which is pretty cool. I didn't pick that up. Are you going to get that?
I've actually made a logical decision. Now I sound like Star Trek, but I've come to the conclusion.
It's not logical.
It's not logical, but instead of buying the Hasbro helmets or buying the play helmets, I'm gonna invest in a official Mandalorian bucket that there's a guy out in Stone Mountain called Lone Wolf, and he does the Mandalorian stuff. So I'm gonna get him to. I have enough to at least buy a plain bucket, but once I started doing the research, and you're like, you got to buy, $50 to $100 worth of tools, and then you're probably buying that and paint and brushes. So you're in it to, $120 for the bucket, and then you're in it for probably another $100 to $200 for the materials to do it. That I'm just going to get him to paint it up. So it's going to end up running me probably about $500, but it's going to look awesome, and I plan on at least doing a Clan Ren motif on it. I'm not sure of the colors yet, but I've always loved Sabine's helmet. And then when rewatching Rebels, you're catching all the little things, And when I saw all of her clan come up and I saw they actually had male Mandos with that painted on their helmet, I was like, ta-da, oh,
Yeah,
so
that's it.
that's what I'm going to do. So it'll take me, it'll be first of next year before I can order it. And then it takes a couple of months for them to paint it up. It's one of those, I've been kicking that can down the road since before, probably 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And it's time to get going on that.
Yeah, definitely. No better time than today.
Exactly.
But the other thing they released for Mando Monday was the Remnant Stormtrooper. It's kind of similar to the one they've already released, but this one had an updated deco to make him look like has seen better days. I missed out on that because I was working. It released at 4 o'clock, but it's supposed to come out November 29th, so I plan on going to Target first thing in the morning and picking that up.
Those Target runs first thing in the morning are fun.
You can meet other collectors there.
Yeah, I've made a couple of good contacts. Just you walk up and they're like, "Oh, you're that guy," and yes, and you end up shooting the shit for a few minutes while you're waiting the Target to open, and yeah, it's fun. Plus, it's old school, man. I like, it's bittersweet ordering online because it's simple, but I like going to a store. I like the old school hunt.
There's one guy I met on a Force Friday one morning who was part of our group, and we were chatting for a while there. So that was good to meet someone, outside of a meetup, and meeting them in the real world and talking Star Wars. But I always play the game Hot Wheels or Star Wars when I'm waiting those lines, and you can never tell which one is which. You don't know if they're waiting for Hot Wheels or Star Wars or maybe Marvel Legends or whatever. So inside my head, as I sit there and wait for the doors to open, that's the game I'm playing.
I love that Hot Wheels or Star Wars because it is true. The Hot Wheels guys are just as crazy as we are.
Yeah, they are. We're in good company.
Yeah. But they're an older crowd. So if you see somebody in like their 60s or 70s, that's a Hot Wheels guy.
Yep. Definitely. It's not a younger group.
Right. But have you seen, go ahead.
No, I was just going to continue on with their triple, I don't know what it was called, triple play or something like that on Friday. They announced a couple more figures.
Is that the 6-inch, which ones are those? Is that the Moff Gideon? Or
that was Asajj Ventress.
Oh yeah, yes, that bad boy.
And then two of the Bad Batch and Black Series, Crosshair and Hunter.
Right, Hunter's the 80s, straight out of an 80s action movie guy, right?
Yes, I think so. Yeah. And then the vintage collection, they released Zutton, who's better known as Red Snaggletooth.
That one I think is going to be pretty cool because you're going to have a lot of old school guys that are going to want to collect him.
Yeah, everyone loves picking up those cards. They're trying to replicate the first 92 as they release these figures, so that's just another one that they've marked off. They did the Power Droid this year. I'm trying to remember what else they did, but they're trying to redo all of those in an updated style and articulation.
You're picking and choosing your battles, and that's a battle I just don't want to even start.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 100 figures in, and it's like, why stop now?
Yeah, that's like me and Pops. It's like, you've picked the couple you're going to stick with because you're already there, and you might as well just keep going.
Although, and this will never come to that, but I've debated in my head, if I had to scale down my collection, what would I keep? What would I get rid of? The vintage collection and the Black Series would probably be the two things. Besides any of the vintage stuff, the original Kenner stuff, I'd probably get rid of. I'd get rid of everything else that I have, if I had to.
Yeah, I hate having those thoughts in your head where you're like, if it hits the fan, what can I do?
Yeah, what goes first?
So have you've seen any the rumors as far as the Moff Gideon, the Kull, and the Krill, and the Grief Karga?
Grief Karga. Yeah, I loved Gideon. Whenever he comes on screen, I always just I love it. I always say, he's chewing up the scene, and I can't wait to get that figure. Quill looks awesome. He looks like he just hopped out of the show. The likeness is pretty cool on that one. And then Grief Karga I'll get just because I get them all.
Right. You got to be a completist.
Got to catch them all.
Yeah, Pokemon. But the cool thing about that Moff Gideon, man, I just want that for the freaking Darksaber.
That'll be the first time in a 6-inch scale that we're getting the Darksaber. They've released so many Mandalorians. I'm sure it's only a matter of time before we get Bo-Katan and all of her crew and plenty of more Mandalorians. So it's cool to finally have that Darksaber that you can pass along from Mando to Mando.
I was at a convention last year, and I picked up one of the Mandalorian ships full of Mandos, and it had the Previsla with the dark saber, and you don't realize it until I knew I was getting something cool, but until I rewatched Clone Wars and rewatched Rebels and everything, and you're like, okay, now I really understand what I have, and it just ups it a couple of levels.
And that figure's actually increased in value over the past year or so because of the last episode of the first season of The Mandalorian. When you see that darksaber, everyone's like, oh, I got to get that. And that was only available in that one figure for the longest time.
I got the ship and the 6 Mandos for like $150. And, I know that darksaber's gone up. That's probably $50 to $60 just in that one darksaber.
Because everyone wants it. But now that it's coming out in vintage collection, I'm sure it's going to correct the market.
Yeah, I think I've heard a rumor that that's sort of what Hasbro does when they see a figure that's sort of, the black market or the third market, or what's it called? The
secondary market.
Secondary market.
Yeah.
Secondary/collector market starts getting crazy. That's when they do the archive series and kind of helps balance that things out. Because I know they did that with the Boba Fett. That's why I heard they did Boba Fett in the archive series, because that figure was getting 60, 70, $80. And they released a figure for 20 to kind of help that out.
Yeah, that makes sense because, if there's demand, that means if they give supply, people are going to buy it. And it's a sure thing that, it's not going to be a peg warmer. They'll be able to sell those things and clear them out, and people will want to buy it and be motivated to buy it because they would prefer to buy the $12 figure versus the $100 figure.
Yep. Well, especially if you're an opener, for $20, you can open that thing up and not feel guilty.
Yeah. Definitely.
But yeah, if I pay over $50-$60 for a figure, I'm probably not opening it, especially on the secondary collector market.
I agree, 100% with that. If I buy something for that cost, I'm not going to open it. The only exceptions I made is with the sail barge, and again with the Razor Crest, I'll open that one. But I won't open the figures inside of it.
Okay. Now, do you think? And I meant to ask you this last week, the Mandalorian and Beskar that they just released, do you think that's the same one they're going to release with the Razor Crest, or do you think there's going to be something unique to make it worth more money?
I think they're the same except for the soft goods. The version with the Razor Crest comes with a soft cape just because when you sit them in the seat, the cape will get in the way if it's a hard plastic.
Okay. Well, they did the same thing with the yak face for the Jabba sail barge.
That yak face came with a cup, though, which I know sounds ridiculous, but if you wanted an extra cup in your sail barge, you'd have to open that yak face.
Right. And not many people, from what I know, because that yak face was $100, and who's going to open a $100 figure just for an extra cup?
Well, he's up to $300 now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I saw on eBay, someone was already trying to sell some of the figures that came with the Razor Crest for a couple $100.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I hate those guys on eBay that they're getting the pre-orders, or they think they're going to get the order or whatever, and they're selling them just because they, as a whim or as a I don't know what the.
No, I get it. I mean, it's all that Dave Ramsey, bullshit. Where part of my French, I have some feelings about this. Where the thing you love is more of a liability than an asset. So if you buy two and you sell it for a little bit more, and then you supplement your collection by taking that money, that profit, and applying it to what you just bought, you're getting things at a discount. But it screws us, the collectors, because I'm following you into the store, and I'm wanting to buy the thing that you just bought two of, and I'm screwed. And if I want, I have to pay an extra $5 to you. So I have a lot of feelings about that, but we'll save that for another discussion. I
agree with that, but I mean, that's sort of how I built my vintage collection. Was you'd buy a lot, but I would pass the deal on. So I wasn't trying to, I was just trying to pay for the lot. So you buy a lot for $200-$300, and then you keep the ones you want, and then you try to get your $200-$300 back out of it.
I'm 100% okay with it if it's not something that you can buy in the shelf stores. In a situation like that, I mean, yeah, that's part of the game now because you can't buy that any other way.
Right.
You're going to have to buy that from someone. But if it's in the store, even like the Razor Crest thing, I mean, they're just, it's the same day that these things are going to be, it's the last day to buy it, and they're already trying to sell it for a couple $100. It's like, come on, guys.
Because I mean, that's sort of where Jabba's sail barge is. It was like $500-600 direct, and now it's selling for $1,200.
Yeah. But you can't go on shelves to buy it anymore. So the only way you can get it is through someone else. So that is a little different in my mind. It's the current stuff that I have a problem with when people try to flip that.
Yeah, scalpers are a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I have feelings, but we'll save that. Like I said,
It's
otherwise I'll
all
get angry.
You don't want to see you angry, right?
No, I'll turn green and turn into a cute little alien.
And eat some eggs.
Eat some eggs and a lobster and an octopus, and I'll eat your children. So
the biggest rumor, I think, out of the whole of everything is their Yak Face, I think, was hinting at a adult-sized Darksaber.
that would be interesting. I would want to see how they do that.
Right. And because now that they're coming out with the newer ones, like the Palpatine saber, the blade comes off. So the newer releases, the blade comes off of them, which would be cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. But it's like, how do you make a glowing black stick? Is it like a black light with a black paint in the middle of it? The $20 version, I can't see it much different than that.
You have to agree with that. I guess they would just make it a bigger version or a more adult friendly version of that one.
You can add some detail to the hilt and make it look more metallized, because this is obviously plastic, but I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I don't get those sabers, but the dark saber would be a game changer to the point where I think I might get that one.
Cool. I've got Luke and Darth Vader's one just because they kind of fell into my lap, for fairly cheap. But I don't hunt them out. But if I can get them for cheap, I pick them up.
I have Darth Maul's, but I had that from before Hasbro was making these high-end sabers. I forget who was making it before that.
Master Replica.
Yeah, so I have the Darth Maul one, but I only have the one half.
That's the one thing that I never liked about that Darth Maul is they should have just said, okay, we're going to charge you for a saber and a half. So like a normal saber is $150. Maybe they'll charge you $2 or $275 or, $250 or something for the whole saber instead of you have to buy two halves.
Yeah.
Because even they do that at Disney too.
Yeah. Well, that's why I didn't pick up another one. I only have the one.
And then when you put it all together, you're at 6 or 7 feet for one lightsaber.
Yeah. It's only cool at nighttime in your backyard, and then all your neighbors are looking at you weird, like, what is this guy flipping a lightsaber for?
Well, my neighbors already know I'm weird, so it's not too bad.
You're not weird.
I'm
trying to think of what to say, but you know what? I'm going to shoot that down. You're Star Wars normal.
He already knows my name. It's funny because I'm sure you, just like with you get people that hadn't been in your house and they see your collection for the first time and they're just, they don't know what to think.
Away. They don't know what to look at. They don't know what to think. It's like overwhelming. And then I love, because I have my collection set up like a toy store, and so I have pegboard on the wall, and then I have the rods that come out, and all my figures sit on those rods, and I have like the full like episode 2 collection, episode 3 collection, and so they're, like I said, 5 deep, and people will look at them and they're like, are there more than one? Are there different ones? They think that I have like 5 of the same figure hanging on the shelf there, and it's like, no, move them. You can see they're all different.
I dig the way you have your setup. When people do that and they run with it and make it look like a toy store. And
yeah. I wish I could lean heavily into that, but I'm limited on space.
I think we all are, man.
Yeah. I guess I need a new house.
Yeah. Well, you can always we're talking about putting a separate garage on the house. Part of it is so that I can take the collection and like customize a room, but that's 5 to 10 years down the road. And
yeah,
that's if the things keep going the way they're going, because where I live, home values have just skyrocketed. So my wife and I just keep looking at each other and are like, come on, keep going. So
yeah, well, it's good to know because I'm not that far from here. So I'm not looking to sell, but it's always good to have that equity.
Equity's insane right now.
People are screaming at us. They want more Star Wars. They don't want to hear about equities.
So let's go to Mando, man. What did you think of episode 11?
The Heiress, written by Jon Favreau and directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, who is the daughter of Ron Howard, who directed Solo and Willow. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I thought this was right up there with the first episode of the season. What'd you think?
I freaking I loved it. I thought it was a little bit better because it was just so much Mando in there. The first one was sort of a throwback to the EU, and there was just like one bone they threw you, or there was a few bones, but you had to be really, really big in the EU to get it. And I even missed some of it because like the Pearl Dragon, the Dragon Pearl, I didn't get that, and I understood Cobb Vanth, but I didn't understand who he was. This one, if you watched Clone Wars and you watched Rebels, you got all the references.
Yes. Yeah, it's like it rewarded you from watching all that stuff. You finally see these characters live action. It's like, I don't know, in my head I've always felt like the movies are like the number one thing, and then the animated series were just like nice and expanded universe stuff. But when you see them in live action, or at least when I saw Bo-Katan live action, it was just like, I don't know, the animated stuff suddenly became more real to me.
Okay.
I don't know why. Maybe because it's basically a cartoon, and you would think that all the important stuff that happened to these characters happened in the movies, not the stuff that happened in between the movies. And so it's fun to watch, but I'm like, did this really happen? Because they've dismissed canon a couple times before. And when you see, like I said, Bo-Katan, there she is, and it's like, no, that really happened. All that stuff, Satine and Obi-Wan Kenobi falling in love, and Darth Maul invading Mandalore. It all happened, and it just made everything feel more real to me.
I can understand where you're coming from that, because like we talked about a couple episodes ago when they got rid of the EU, and you just had to deal with it. So yeah, I can see where you're coming from, and I understand that.
So it starts with the ship that we saw in the trailer, just kind of limping through space, heading for a planet. And the ship is about to crash land as he comes in hot, which I really thought was exciting.
That was a really cool series of a scene right there, because I don't think we've ever really seen a ship really come in the atmosphere in Star Wars.
Yeah.
You get to see it heating up, and then you're like, oh, that's science. Yeah.
Yeah, it worked. And right at the last moment, as he's about to turn things off, things go awry and he crashes into the water. And then we see a new AT vehicle pull him out, which I loved.
I don't know if it was a repurposed AT-AT or if it was one that was designed that way, but it was definitely my wife loves AT-ATs, and when she saw that, she was like, look at that. And
I think what you just said perfectly describes Star Wars. You don't know if it's new or if it's been modified, but it's there. And that when you see a vehicle like that, that's definitely 100% Star Wars.
Exactly. But that was cool. And I thought it was funny how, it's like, all right, cool, he pulled this off. And then as soon as right before everything touches down, the engine blows up or gives, sputters and flips him over and into the water. And it sort of just, that's the Mandalorian. That's the whole feel of the whole episode, where he finally gets his shit together and something happens.
Yeah, exactly. That's just how it's been going this season.
It's been going that way the whole series so far.
That's true. Yep. And then I loved seeing the Mon Calamari in a sweater, in waders, fishing waders. Like, this is some sort of Maine fishing village on a just depressing day. I love the whole aesthetic, the whole feel of the place. I love that there were squid heads there, because Return of the Jedi, I feel, is the strongest movie with creatures and the whole puppetry and all that stuff. So to see those two characters, or the species of those characters, I should say, just really, I love that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that, and I like how it was right out the gate. You see the Mon Calamari and the squid heads, and they weren't messing around with it. It was all right. We're gonna do it, and we're gonna do it right out the gate.
Yeah, no waiting around for that. And then we meet the husband of the frog lady, and I really liked the child watching the eggs. Like, there goes my dinner.
He really was, and Mandalorian is just like, I know you're hungry. And then they go to that bar or diner or whatever that you want to call it.
Yeah.
You see him get the soup, and you're just like, dude, that's just disgusting.
Yeah.
The whole alien vibe comes back when that thing sucks to Baby Yoda's face.
And the Mando just takes out his viral blade and hits it, and it's just back in the soup, and he's eating. Right,
and it's like, don't play with your food.
And we saw the calamari credits from the first episode of the season 1, when they're trying to give him money to pay for his bounty, and there's the credits again.
Yeah. What I want to kind of pause right here and I want to know, how the hell does Mandalorian, how does he eat? If he's not taking his helmet off, you never see him eat. They never allude to him eating. It's like, how are you staying upright, dude? Because you don't drink anything. You're not, what are you doing to eat?
He takes it off. You just can't take it off in front of anyone, even the child, because there was that one, I think it was last episode, when he went to go take a nap with the child. He didn't take his mask off because the child was there, I think. And in the first season, he did take it off when they were at that village. He kind of took it off and put it on the window so he can eat his dinner. So he does take it off. It just people can't see him doing it.
Okay. That makes a little bit more sense.
Because of the creed.
God, I love that part too. We'll get to that part in a minute.
Yeah. So Squid Head, the Mon Calamari makes him pay to get some information. And then the Squid Head's like, yeah, we'll help you. Then they go out on a fishing boat, and they get double crossed. They want to feed their monster in the bow of their ship, or in the belly of their ship, and they also want the Mandalorian's Beskar armor.
I think that part was important because you learn that not only is people after the child, they're after his Beskar. So he's got double or triple people attacking him, and they all want something different.
And I want to back up for a second, because when the Mandalorian's looking for help, the Squid Head says, and I wrote this down because I thought it was kind of afterwards, I thought it was a foreshadow of what might happen, but he says, I can take you to them, referring to the Mandalorians that you're looking for. And to me, that sounded a lot like when Yoda said, take you to him, I will, like talking about Yoda, and he's playing a trick on Luke. Looking back on it, I'm like, oh, is this guy kind of... Is Jon Favreau writing that line to kind of hint that this guy's going to betray the Mandalorian, or he's not all that he seems to be?
I love the way that Jon Favreau writes, so he could totally be foreshadowing.
And we'll get to it in a minute, but he also writes a different way of applying "this is the way" in this episode, which I thought was just masterful.
The writing on this whole episode, I thought was incredible. Not to jump ahead, but it's like the answers he gave, it was almost throwaway. When you we've been debating the helmet issue for 2 years, and when we finally get it answered, it's a minute and it's a throwaway line. Yeah,
you get the answer, and Bo-Katan uses the phrase "this is the way" as an insult, like this is the way. The way she says it was just like so insulting to him, like your way is pathetic.
It was. She was like, it was like a F you, Mando.
So yeah, let's just jump right into Bo-Katan returning, flying in and kicking Squid Head ass. And she's got her friend who saves the child from the beast down there. And these are badass Mandalorians.
Yeah. When I saw that helmet, I was just like, it's Bo-Katan. And there again, you tear up and you goosebump and you fist bump. And, it's 5:15 in the morning when I'm watching this, and I try not to have the TV too loud, and my wife's normally up by 5:20 anyway, so I know when she gets up, so I'm trying not to have anything too loud and trying not to get overexcited. And when you see that night owl helmet, it's goosebumps. You're just they're actually doing it. They're going to bring her back, which means they're going to bring Ahsoka back, which means they're going to bring Sabine back. And
it's played by Katie Sackhoff, who did the voice of Bo-Katan, which I thought was pretty awesome. Because I don't think they do this with Ahsoka. They didn't bring back Ashley Eckstein, but they did bring back Katie Sackhoff to play Bo-Katan. So I don't know what the reasoning is there, but I'm glad that they brought back an actor who actually was doing the voice. There's some consistency there.
The only reason I can think they did that with her and not Ahsoka is because when you put the helmet on, you could put somebody different in the suit and do all the tricks and do all the physical stuff, where you can't really do that with Ahsoka.
We'll see. I don't know. We don't even know if Ahsoka, well, I guess, we'll get to the end of this episode. Yeah.
It's okay if we jump ahead, but yes. My God.
So the street fight was pretty cool. So they come back, and the Squid Heads are ready to jump the Mandalorian.
Well, you missed a very, very important part in that whole scene.
Yes.
The helmet. Yes. You missed that. Yeah, you skipped over the most
important part. Yes. Duh.
The whole episode, I think that, and then when she tells him where the Jedi is, those are the two most important parts of that whole episode. Well, that and when she says that I need this thing from Moff Gideon.
A long time ago, in a Mandalorian planet far, far away, Mandalorians never took off their helmets. And then along the way, I guess they started to, and then someone came along and started the Child of the Watch, which is like a cult where they're dedicated to the old ways of doing things, where Mandalorians never took off their helmet.
Which I thought Child of the Watch was more maybe came off a Death Watch, but Pre Vizsla always took off his helmet. But you never saw any of the did the troopers, or did they take off their helmets off, or was it just Pre Vizsla that took his helmet off?
I think it was just Pre Vizsla. I don't remember.
It's been a minute. It hasn't been that long, but it's been long enough to where I'd have to go back and watch it again. So I don't know. I thought they were Death Watch, or they're somehow tied to Death Watch. Children of the Watch and Death Watch are somehow tied together, but that's just maybe the way my brain is working.
Yeah. I don't know.
The favorite part is they take their helmets off, and then Mando goes into, where the hell did you get that armor?
Yeah, take it off.
You hear Bo-Katan curse.
Yep.
And then you hear the guy go, he's one of them. And you're like, what's going on? And then you hear Bo-Katan go into the Children of the Watch description.
Yep. And this is the way of the Mandalorian, the Mandalore. I guess it's always been that way, but it's kind of more spelled out now that this is the way of the Mandalorian. They're kind of just connecting the dots, that when they say this is the way, they specifically mean this is the way of the Mandalorian, the Child of the Watch.
This is the way of the what they're calling themselves, Mandalorians or Mandalore. You know, even though you realize real quick that this cult, for a lack of a better term, really has no clue what's going on in the world.
Yeah. They're hiding. They're separate from each other. And Bo-Katan even says at one point, separate they're weak, together they're strong. And that's why she wants to get back to the way things were, because she wants to unite clans.
I'm trying not to jump ahead, but yes. And then they kind of go their separate ways, and they take off. And
who is Dank Farrik? Is it Dank Farrik?
Dank Farrik, yeah, it's something. I think that's what they say.
They keep saying it, and it was said in the first episode too.
Oh, was it really? I missed it.
Yeah, the blue guy kind of makes a comment like Dank Farrik. I'm like, who is this person? Why are we just hearing about this person?
It's probably their curse word, or their damn it, or whatever. Because read in the EU, there's a curse word, and I don't know what it is, and I can't remember it right now. But throughout all the books, it's this one curse word. In Rebels, Zeb kept saying Carabash.
Carabash, yeah.
So that was his curse word. So Star Wars has always been they always have really unique curse words, because they can't use normal curse words, because then they get an R rating or whatever, PG-13. And then we wouldn't let our little kids watch it because they're dropping too many curse words.
Yeah, when Luke says, blast it, Biggs, where are you? I always thought blast it was a curse word.
That damn Luke Skywalker.
So then we go back to the street fight where the squid heads are jumping the Mandalorian, and because Mandalorians allegedly killed this guy's brother, and that's when the three, Bo-Katan and her two friends, jump in and save the Mandalorian from having to be a one-on, 8 people fight.
Watching the Mandalorians kick ass in this episode was amazing.
Yeah, there was like a spin kick on the ship right when we first meet Bo-Katan, which I don't remember if it was her or her friend.
When they do where they kind of kick and they use a jetpack to propel them into the guy.
Yeah, and she's kind of spinning at the same time. I thought that was pretty cool. The music in that scene was awesome.
Dude, I love and I've been meaning to bring this up, but when it comes to a fight scene, it's like it goes rock and roll or metal or something. They got a blazing guitar in the background, and, just this full on metal shred guitar. And you're just like, yeah, it's getting ready to happen, getting ready to go down.
Yeah, it's working, because initially when The Mandalorian came out and we had the new kind of music, it wasn't John Williams. I'm like, what is this? This doesn't. But now that we've kind of lived in the show for a while, it feels more like the show. And I think the music is really, really good in this whole show.
He's doing a good job. Whoever, I don't know the composer is, but he's doing a good job.
Ludwig something or other. I don't know his last name. It's very German, I think.
Well, whoever he is, he's doing a hell of a job with the music.
But the Mandalorians want to steal weapons from the Empire. And that's what they need the Mandalorian to help with, is to help them steal it. And then if he helps, he's going to get more information, just like he did with the last episode. I guess that's what the whole theme of this is. You help someone and they'll give you information.
I'm really hoping they get away from this theme because it's getting too predictable.
My brother, like I mentioned last week, he's not really into Star Wars, but he's watching this stuff, and he says it feels more like a video game where each episode is a new level with a new mission, new bad guys, new this, new that, and it's just it doesn't feel as connected, maybe. And I could see that. For us, we love Bo-Katan. We love seeing Bo-Katan because we've been in there from day one, and we know who these characters are, and it's just fun to see it. But for, I guess, someone from the outside, they might feel that way.
Being a Star Wars fan, I'm starting to feel that way, that it's just like, oh, here we go again. To get what he needs, he has to help these people out.
Connective tissue. That's what I'm looking for. That's the word I was looking for. But yeah, what's the connective tissue between all these episodes?
I think we're finally getting there. It's taken 3 episodes to get there, and maybe one more, here when we get into some of it. I think they opened up a really good subplot in this episode with Bo-Katan and the other Mandos I would love to see an episode with Bo-Katan, just Bo-Katan in it. We may not even see the Mando and the child.
Yeah.
I could totally see that happening, where you have the whole subplot of them trying to get all their stuff together.
Yeah, I don't think this is the last time we're going to see Bo-Katan.
There's no way this is the last time we're going to see Bo-Katan.
No. Nope. There's more to come.
Yeah, I can't wait.
And so we cut to the ship that the weapons are on, the Empire's taking, and we see the Man in Black. I should have looked his name up. He was in Lost. He was on Bosch, but he was a really good actor in Lost. He played the Man in Black, basically the bad side of the island. But it was cool to see him as an Imperial officer.
Yeah, my wife asked me, she goes, who is that guy? And she goes, I've seen him somewhere. And I'm like, he's an actor, but he's not Star Wars actor. So she's like, all right, cool. And that's all she needed to know. But that's maybe, if I would have told her Lost, she probably would have gotten mad because she's still pissed at the way they ended Lost.
All these years later.
All these years later, she refuses to watch anything on Fox because she's like, I hated Sons of Anarchy. I hated Lost. I hate, the way they ended them. So maybe if I tell her that, she'll get mad.
Well, Lost was ABC.
Was it AB? Okay.
Yeah, so she can watch Fox again.
Okay, awesome.
Or maybe she can't watch ABC now.
I don't know.
That's your problem, not mine. But then they get on the ship, they start kicking some ass, and they knock stormtroopers off of there, and they get into the control room, which is where all the weapons are. And the Imperial officer back there decides to lock them into the control room.
Mm-hmm.
And that control room controls the back door. So the Mandalorians, all they need to do is just open the door, and all the stormtroopers and the officer flies out the back.
I love the acting by that guy because he was just, it was the comic relief, just the right comic relief that episode you needed at that moment, because he was all like, all right, cool, we're going to get these pirates. And then all of a sudden you see Mandos come up and his attitude just changes. And he's like, oh shit, lock the door. And they're like, which door? They're like, all of them. And then when he finally locks him in the door, he calls up to the bridge and is like, we've got him. And then they all realize what you just said. You locked him in the wrong room, and the bay door opens and they get sucked out. And
this is the scene where Bo-Katan uses "this is the way" as an insult, because the Mandalorian, so they've decided to take the entire ship, not just the weapons, and they didn't tell the Mandalorian this. And when he questions her about this, he said something like, you're changing the terms, or you're changing the terms of the deal, which is almost word for word from The Empire Strikes Back, which is another callback to the great writing that Jon Favreau is doing. And she says, this is the way, like, this is an insult. This is the way we're doing things now.
Was it at that moment, or when she talks? Yeah. Where she looks at him and is like, he has something that I was once mine that I need to rule Mandalore. And you're like, it's going to happen. You're like, they brought her back to get the Darksaber back.
Yep. And then the next scene is back in the front control room with the guy from Lost, and he calls in Moff Gideon to kind of debrief on what's going on.
I can't help you, and you've got to do, you know what to do. And he ends up shooting the two. Is it it's the co-pilot that sits on the left, but that blonde guy that you could just see the look on his face. It may have been a little bit overacting, but you could just tell he knew he didn't have long to live. And every
Right.
time something came up, you could just see the look on his face like, yeah, I'm going to die.
This is the end of the line.
This is the end. This is all she wrote for me. You know, as soon as they say long live the Empire and he shoots those two guys, you know, it was a suicide mission at that point.
And then so the Mandalorian has to run up to the front with the three of the other Mandalorians, Bo-Katan and her two. And there was that hallway scene where they're kind of trapped in and they don't know what to do. And the Mandalorian pulls out 2 bombs and he just runs headfirst down the hallway to throw those bombs and make sure they hit the stormtroopers, which I thought, you know, why would he do that? But, you know, if he wants to go to the child and see the child again, he needs to get out of that hallway. And so I think that was his motivation to you know, run in and get the job done.
You realize how strong Beskar is because it doesn't even show any signs of gunfire.
And stormtroopers are horrible shots because they should have hit in between.
I did love that callback when they're sitting on the Razor Crest talking about the mission. And they go, well, there's probably just a group of or platoon or something of stormtroopers. And the male Mandalorian goes, and they couldn't hit the broadside of a bantha.
They're calling it out in the universe now.
That whole scene, that whole episode was just epic.
And then the last bit here is where they break into the control room. The guy from Lost, right before he takes it's almost like a cyanide pill in his tooth. He has some sort of electric device that fries his whole body and kills him. She's asking, does he have it? Where is he? And he's like, if you have to ask, you already know he has it.
That's when she calls it out by name. And those 2 moments were just goosebumps. You know, that whole episode was just amazing, you know, as being a Mandalorian guy. Wow. Yeah. You see all the weapons and you see them using their gauntlets and all, you know, all the stuff they put on the gauntlets, and you see Bo-Katan's knife come out of the gauntlet. And
yeah,
I love when they bring the Mandos in and have them fight. Those episodes are they make that whole series for me.
And again, going back to what I was saying, you know, the cartoons, they can do whatever they want. You can't do that stuff in a TV series because it's going to be so expensive. But here they are, they're doing it, and it looks awesome. And it's like, no, all that stuff in the animated cartoon is real. It feels more real now.
Puts a stamp of approval on it, I guess is the best way to put it.
And then, so they get the ship. The Mandalorians have the ship, and the Mandalorian himself wants to go back to the child. And that's when Bo-Katan tells him, do you want to say what it was?
She tells him where to find Ahsoka.
Some planet called Caladan. I think I wrote that down right.
I need to do a better job of taking notes, man, when I'm watching.
Well, I watched it again this morning. I watch it once, and then I watch it again, and I just jot down notes so I don't forget things, and I can try to pull the details. Otherwise, I'll forget too.
I watched this episode 3 times because I watched it in the morning, and then I watched it Friday afternoon, and then I watched it this afternoon when we got back from being out of town.
Yeah.
And yeah, when even my wife, when she says Ahsoka Tano, she's slapping me on the leg. Okay, cool. You know who Ahsoka Tano is. You know shit's gonna get really good when she shows up. That was amazing. And I didn't think I'd act that way when I heard her name, because I'm like, I know what she is. I know she's Dave Filoni's baby, and he's gonna put her in everything he does. And I didn't think I'd react the way I did when I heard her name again.
Yeah, I was jumping. I'm like, yes, Ahsoka, yes. And it's so funny with Ahsoka because she was such an annoying character at the start of it. You know, this little annoying girl that would just say, hey, Sky Guy, and it's like, hey, Snips, and it's like, I don't care about this. But now, because of Dave Filoni's ability to tell rich stories, you care so much about Ahsoka, who's maybe one of the more popular characters to Star Wars fans. They would say people who are in Star Wars, not so much outside. I think if you're outside of Star Wars, you know, you got your Darth Vaders, your C-3POs, R2-D2s, but it seems like a lot of collectors are really gravitating towards Ahsoka, and I love it. I love her mention of it in this episode.
I watched Rebels before I watched Clone Wars, so I knew Ahsoka from Rebels. I didn't know her from Clone Wars. And we were at one of the meetups, and they were playing Clone Wars. And I remember asking, I'm like, is she this annoying throughout the whole season of Clone Wars? Because I know her from Rebels, and she is awesome in Rebels. And here she's just being an annoying teenager.
Yeah, there's a lot of character development in the Clone Wars to the point where she's I think, what everybody wants to be.
I have to give props to Ashley because she's a great ambassador to Star Wars, because a lot of people, when they play, get shoehorned in their character like that. They don't want to deal with it anymore. And she's one that she's running with it.
But it doesn't sound like she's going to be in this season. It's going to be a different actress.
Yeah, the rumor is Rosaria Dawson is going to be her. And they've actually, I think on the new Black Series stuff, renderings of Ahsoka are pushing more towards her as Ahsoka than Ashley than the Clone Wars Ahsoka.
Yeah, so we'll see. I'm excited to see where this goes. But just to wrap up this episode, right before the Mandalorian says, right before he leaves, Bo-Katan says, "This is the way," but it's more respectful than it was previously used. So it's like the Mandalorian has earned her respect. And the last shot is, I thought it was funny. The Razor Crest shoots off into hyperspace, and afterwards, after he's shot off, you see this little piece of the vehicle just kind of drifting through space. He
asked the Mon Calamari to fix his ship, and he does such a crap job that when it takes off, you see the pieces coming off, and then when it's final jump into hyperspace, there's that little piece.
It's like held together with string.
Right.
Yeah.
String and rope, and you're like,
literally.
But hopefully he'll get it fixed his next go around.
Especially now that they spent $350 on it.
Yeah. That's why I didn't want to get one of the reasons why. It's like, geez.
He's gonna get a new ship next year.
Right. No one. Yeah. Welcome to the world of collecting.
I will give this episode 4 out of 4 Mandalorian helmets. I thought it was a good episode.
Yes, it was a great episode. But yes, 4 out of 4. You said.
Yeah, I'll give 4 out of 4.
Yeah, I give it 4 out of 4 myself, because it was an amazing episode, especially being a Mandalorian guy.
It's awesome.
And now that we talked about the Bo-Katan wanting the Darksaber back, that I really want Dave Filoni to develop that subplot of her finding the Darksaber, because I think, her going after Moff Gideon, and then the Mandalorian going after Moff Gideon, and then meeting in the middle. I think it's going to be something like that, and then Ahsoka will come up, and then it's just going to end up in this epic battle at the end of the season. What I really don't want to happen is they drag him hunting Ahsoka down for 4 or 5 more episodes, and the last scene right before they fade to black is her turning around.
You mean like a last episode cliffhanger?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like they did with the Darksaber.
There's a lot that I'm just like, where is this going? How are they going to connect things? Is he going to bring back Cobb Vanth and put together a posse to go do something at the last episode of the season? Is Ahsoka, if we're, patterns are repeating itself, is he going to meet Ahsoka, and Ahsoka's like, well, if you want me to tell you where to take this child, you have to do this for me.
Exactly. Maybe. And then they'll end up back at Tatooine, and then there's Boba Fett.
I'm trying to figure out, so, you got Bo-Katan, you got Ahsoka Tano. We don't know where these characters meet their end. Is this show where they're going to see some of that stuff? Are we going to see Bo-Katan, possibly die to try to get the Darksaber, and the Mandalorian realizes its value and why it's important to Mandalorians, and he makes it his mission to get it himself? I mean, Ahsoka, what happens to Ahsoka? Where does she end up? How does she die? Where does she meet her end? Is that what we're going to see throughout this whole run of this show?
I hope not. But, I mean, we might. I need to see where the timeline is.
We're 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
And I think we're clear of the last time we've seen some characters. I think Ahsoka, the last shot of Rebels took place like around this time, 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
Rebels ends, right before A New Hope, and then it's 5 years when they wrap it all up. 5 years later when they wrap it up.
And so I think, Sabine and Ahsoka are out there looking for Ezra, so that's a thread that we need to tie up. But that takes away from the Mandalorian story.
Because then you're like, well, okay, is Thrawn and Ezra going to show up in the Mandalorian? Then that's almost too much fan service. You almost need, maybe they'll do instead of it being a subplot of the Mandalorian, maybe it'll be another show.
Yeah, I don't want another show invading this show. I think that's the last thing I want to see.
I feel you on that. And I am looking at the timeline, and Mandalorian is 5 years after Return of the Jedi, or after Return of the Jedi. So Ahsoka, I mean, and Sabine could be back from finding Ezra. She could be taking a break. You don't know.
I know a lot of people didn't like The Last Jedi, but I did appreciate having some finality to Luke Skywalker's journey, and I think I do want to see how that ends. And I would only want Dave Filoni to tell us how Ahsoka ends, because I'm sure he's going to do it in a beautiful way. Because the last episode of Rebels was really touching.
I cry like a little girl the last 5 minutes of Rebels, just because it's just there. You can't get around it. Like you said, it's touching. It's beautiful. It wraps that series up in a nice little bow, and then you get a gift at the end where Ahsoka and Sabine are going to look for Ezra.
Yeah.
You know, a little nugget that it may happen, it may not happen, and yeah.
I wonder what happens with the child too. You know, where's that story going? Does he find the home planet of Yoda species, or does he decide to take the child as his own? And maybe the child decides, no, the Mandalorian's my father, and I'm a foundling. I don't know. I'm really interested to see where the story goes. We talk about the minute details of each episode, but the overall story, I'm really, really curious to see what they're doing with it. Because I'm sure they have it planned out with what's his name? The guy who plays Moff Gideon,
Giancarlo Esposito.
Giancarlo, yes, thank you. He was saying, season 4 and 5 is when we're going to start getting some of the answers that seasons 1 through 3 ask.
Wow, that is a long game.
Yeah, so we'll see, and I'm in for it. Let's do it.
Yeah, if they keep writing it like this, let's go. Now, do you think that we will see Din Djarin transfer over to Sabine's ways, and you're going to start seeing him without his helmet?
You just it just blew my mind. I want to say yes. I mean, that's the character development.
And I have to say yes too, but mine is more real world. You don't hire somebody like that to play a character with a mask.
He's kind of stuck in his ways, and there is another way. He doesn't know anything about Mandalorian history. He doesn't know anything about the Darksaber, because he's kind of shocked that Mandalorians take off their masks. So if he's shocked about that, he's not going to know anything about the Darksaber. And I think once he starts to learn about the history of his culture, of who he is, he's going to realize that maybe the way he's doing things is not the way.
I 100% agree with that. I think he's going to hang out with Bo-Katan, and it may take a lot. It may take a little. You never know. He may just one day take it off and realize that it's okay.
He thinks if he takes the mask off, he's not a Mandalorian. But I think the Mandalorians are going to respect him. He's going to earn their respect. He's going to earn the respect himself. And he's going to say, I am Mandalorian, and I can take this mask off.
There's a possibility, especially if they try to, basically say, you've been brainwashed by this cult, and, what they're teaching you is not the right way. Because I even said, he was like, well, Mandalore is no good anymore. It's, the Empire destroyed it. It's not, it's bad. It's a bad juju. Anybody who goes there dies. And Bo-Katan is like, dude, I just left Mandalore.
They did that because it's a control thing. If he goes back and he sees how things are currently on Mandalorian, he's going to be thinking what I've been doing has been a lie. That's
sort of the way cults work. I mean, if it's truly a cult, then that they're working the exact way cults work.
Yeah, it just got a lot more richer.
That's what I love about his writing, is it's like that those 30 seconds, it was less than 5 minutes in that whole episode, and our minds were blown. It's just like the couple of mentions of the Darksaber and the mention of Ahsoka. Those to me were all throwaway lines, but it weighed so heavily on everything, and everything weighs on those 5 or 6 lines, 30, 45-minute episode.
The other thing I'll say about this season compared to last season, so they have that giant screen, which they call the volume, where they film, and I'm sure everybody knows about it because they've seen tons of behind-the-scenes videos about it. It doesn't feel like they're using it in these past 3 episodes. I know they're using it. I know it's back there. The Tatooine stuff, it's just a long desert, and they're not in the desert. They're not in the desert, so that's the screen. But for the past 2 episodes, it doesn't feel like a screen. It feels like a real world that they're visiting. And I think it's working. Just
the technology they throw into that whole thing, that whole show. And it is driving Disney Plus, because as much as I love Disney Plus, I don't think I'd have it without The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So Disney knows what they're doing. and they know how to take our money, and we give it to them willingly and freely.
Yeah, Disney Plus is a different discussion because I did buy it for like the 4-year thing because I knew I was going to be using it, and I have kids who use it basically every day. I thought there'd be a lot more new content like Netflix, and it's just like a back catalog at this point.
The Mandalorian, and then the right stuff if you're into astronauts and the space program. That's an incredible show. I really enjoy that one. So with those two shows, I enjoy having Disney Plus. And yeah, you're right. With the it's a backlog right now, but I think COVID has kind of really put the kibosh on a lot of stuff, and now they're just now ramping up production again. Because even Netflix to me has become, there's no new stuff on Netflix. There's barely, the only stuff you're seeing on network television is reruns and reality TV.
Yeah.
And they're just now starting to do shows back into production.
As a Mount Calamari might say, it's a wrap.
Well, guys, Jason, how can we find you on social media?
Just go Instagram, Jason Wasolko, and you'll find me.
Awesome. Look me up, Instagram, Cajun Fett. Email us at smugglersgalaxy@gmail.com. Thanks for everybody that's been downloading the episodes. Send us some feedback. Let us know if there's anything we can change, and this is the way.
This is the way.